Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Development Hell Podcast. Alex is here, Matt is here with shenanigans already, so we're all going to be having some fun. And this is going to be an interesting one because we're not talking about our top films of a genre or anything like that. We're getting super nerdy today because we wanted to cast the new X-Men because, they spent all that money buying Fox. They're going to use X-Men. They finally confirmed that Fantastic Four is happening. So it's just a matter of time before they announce when X-Men are coming. So we're going to have fun with that. And we have a short list because welcome to It's January. We got Gambit over here. We're actually casting Alex as Gambit. So we got
you
that.
doing something like that, Alex?
Go in there like this, huh? I'll go in there like this.
So
never again.
we're gonna blow up the internet and cast Matt as Professor Xavier.
Twitter.
And I want to be Beast, but we're gonna talk about that at another time. But so we only have a short list of movies to go through right now, and one of them's technically a 2020 film anyway, because it got released in theaters, I think on like December 31st, but it's releasing on Netflix and it's called Pieces of a Woman. And it's starring Vanessa Kirby and Shia LaBeouf and Ellen Bernstein. And it's about when a young mother's home birth ends in unfathomable tragedy. She begins a year-long odyssey of mourning that fractures relationships with loved ones. So it's right in time for Oscar season. Alex, are you going to green light Pieces of a Woman or send it back to development hell?
Based on what I'm hearing with the cast, and I mean, it obviously sounds like a challenging subject matter, but I'll green light that. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, so definitely sounds like a Friday night movie. Sounds awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
It's more like Wednesday. I was going to say Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Matt likes to do his grieving of tragic loss on a Friday night, so do not judge him.
No, that sounds pretty awesome. That sounds, I think, for a movie like that, I feel like if someone were to like sit down at their computer and say, I want to write a movie about this particular thing, that movie, and for it to go from idea stage to actually get filmed and then being put out, I have to imagine that like something that serious has to be like, I would hope, a successful experiment. You know what I mean? Because for something that serious to be garbage, I don't think anyone would ever green like that. Like actual green like that. But then I don't know. I've been disappointed before. Oh man.
I'm gonna green light it. This is a Netflix original film, and I've been a little disappointed with their like December run of movies. I think we got spoiled because like last year we had The Irishman, Marriage Story, Two Popes, and like this year, like Mank was the big one that they released at the beginning of December, which I really, really loved Mank a lot. And it's definitely gotten the best reviews out of their original films. But like The Prom was a big flashy musical. The Midnight Sky is a bit of a mess, and which is a little disappointing. But like I'm interested to see this, and I really like. Yeah, about there. I really like Vanessa Kirby a lot. She was really good on The Crown, and like she had the tough job of trying to like find screen time in Hobbs and Shaw between The Rock, Jason Statham, and Idris Elba, and somehow pushed their muscles away for her to actually get some quality screen time. And I enjoyed her in it. And like Shia LaBeouf might be a crazy man, but like he's a talented actor. And I'm interested to see this film, so I'm definitely going to green light it. So
I saw Honey Boy last week for the first time.
Okay.
Number one, I have no idea why I didn't watch it sooner. That was fantastic. That was like amazing. Whoa.
It was crazy. And like him as his own dad, like him portraying his own father, that was intense and pretty incredible. So now we have another streaming original film. This is an Amazon film called Herself. This is a story of a young mother, Sandra, who escapes her abusive husband and fights back against a broken housing system. She sets out to build her own home and in the process rebuilds her life and rediscovers herself. And this is from director Phyllida Lloyd, who directed, interesting enough, Mamma Mia and The Iron Lady with Meryl Streep. So not quite sure of any of the actual cast members, though. But so based off that synopsis and what our director has done, Alex, do you greenlight this or send it back to development hell?
I'm going to greenlight it only because that sounds very, I think right now it sounds very relatable. You know, a lot of people can relate to, especially as you get to your late 20s and your early to mid 30s. There's a lot of building and rebuilding that you have to do in your life. And so building a house is always analogous to those sorts of things. So I think that'd be kind of fun.
All righty. So we got one. How about you, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't double feature it with the movie that you talked about before, but
you're setting a tone here on this week's because like Pieces of a Woman comes out on January 7th. On Netflix, so Thursday, and then this comes out on Amazon on Friday. So you got a nice back-to-back days of some serious drama going here. So, and that's interesting back-to-back because those are two of our films, and now here's our last one. So it's January. So what do we always get in January? Horrible horror films and at least one Liam Neeson movie. So we have The Marksman. So let's see what vague.
Wait, Alex, why are you laughing?
Did you intentionally say Liam Neeson with a lisp?
What?
Did I say Liam Neeson's? Because maybe I meant to say that.
It sounded like you said it with a lisp. I was like.
So I'm about to read the synopsis of basically Taken, except I guess this is a ranch one. So a rancher on an Arizona border becomes the unlikely defender of a young Mexican boy desperately fleeing the cartel assassins who've pursued him into the U.S. So it's Liam Neeson, and this is the director of, so it looks like the director, Robert Lorenz, has been a second unit director on a lot of Clint Eastwood movies. And like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a movie directed by Clint Eastwood based off of the description. And like looking at the cast, it's basically Liam Neeson and people. So Alex, are you going to greenlight The Marksman?
It's like Eddie Murphy with The Nutty Professor, only it's Liam Neeson. He plays, the villain. He plays the caribou. He plays the.
Liam Neeson plays the young Mexican boy. That is not accurate. Basically,
I would have greenlit. I totally would have greenlit that. But no, I mean, based off what I'm hearing and what he's been doing, I can't really. Funny is, I was watching Daddy's Home too, and it's one of his stock movies that they go to see at the end of Daddy's Home too. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's kind of.
I've seen parts of that one, and like when they added John Cena and Mel Gibson to the sequel, I'm just like, they're really going for it.
Yeah, it was weird, but it was fun. It's fun, but I wouldn't have greenlit that movie, and I'm not going to greenlight this one.
Okay, how about you, Matt?
It didn't really grab me. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Yeah, I don't know about this one for me.
I'm gonna say no on this one as well. Like, I saw Honest Thief a couple of months ago. I'm like, that was surprising that it wasn't crap. And that's honestly, unfortunately, the expectation I have for a lot of these, like, well, and actually that's not fair. Like, most of these Liam Neeson movies are at least okay. But like, would I rather go watch something else? Probably. Because, it has this nonstop unknown, was it transit? That doesn't sound right. He's on like a commuter train. He has Honest Thief, Walk Among the Tombstones. He just has a lot of these kinds of films going his way.
Let me ask you, Shane, is it all coming from the same studio? Does he have a contract with a studio that's like, well, we're going to spend this much and we know we're going to make this much, like, because he's always got these films coming out?
That's a good question. I'd have to look into that more closely. But it also seems like he had Cold Pursuit in 2019. Like, honestly, I'm trying to think of, like, he had Ordinary Love in 2020, which I love that film. It's one of the few, like, straight dramas I've seen Liam Neeson do in a long time. So, like, I don't know. He's just doing his Liam Neeson thing. And it's like one of the pictures here, it's Liam Neeson in like a cowboy hat. And I'm like, is he going to be Irish as well? He just happens to be a Irish farmer in a rancher in Arizona. Cause like, here's the funny thing cause like, I can't tell if he's not supposed to be doing an accent or not, because his American accent's not very good to begin with. It just bleeds out anyway. I think Liam Neeson should just get to the point where he's Arnold. Nobody questions why this giant Austrian man's in this movie. It's just Arnold. Like, I just watched Jingle All the Way. Did anybody question why Rita Wilson married this large Austrian man? Like, no, he just happens to be there. And I feel like Liam Neeson just needs to stop hiding his accent and just be like, there's immigrants in this country. It's okay. This man is here. So, like, he could be a commuter on a train. He can be a thief. He can be in the U.S. military, like an Honest Thief.
Are you telling him to act better?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Liam Neeson is a really talented actor.
Okay.
It's just that I don't know how great his American accent is, because he's always bleeding in with his own accent. So why even fake it? Because, like, here's the thing. Did anybody, like, I'm sure people did wonder, why is this obviously Scottish man, a Russian, leading the submarine in Hunt for Red October? But, like, who wouldn't want Sean Connery in Hunt for Red October?
I questioned it.
So we'll leave that at that, and that all of us said no to this movie. So I still have fun with them. I still like to watch Liam Neeson kill people, but like, would I personally greenlight this movie? Probably not. So, alrighty. So now we're getting into our topic, which is recently Disney just like dropped like 60 plus new shows and movies, all kinds of stuff at their investors meeting, including Fantastic Four is coming back. Blade is officially going to be happening pretty soon, honestly, with Mahershala Ali. So it's only a matter of time before we get new X-Men. So I know, at least for me, I've loved the X-Men. And they're my favorite comic book characters. And I've had a love-hate relationship with the franchise of X-Men that Fox had. Because, like, the first X-Men was like, holy crap, they made this work.
Yeah.
X2, I think one of the best comic book movies. And then by Bryan Singer, and then you bring in Brett Ratner, and you get Last Stand, which had way too much going on in it. And they're like, we gotta reboot this. And then you have this whole new cast, and then you do Days of Future Past and like slam them all together. And also figured out a way to have people stop aging. Because, like, one aside here before we dig into talking about this, X-Men First Class takes place in like 1963. Mm-hmm. Dark Phoenix takes place in like 1993. Mm-hmm. Why didn't anybody age in between the 30 years between those movies?
Yeah, Wolverine would be the only one that you could like get away with having him not age, and he wasn't in half the films.
Well, I guess technically Mystique is the only one that shouldn't have to age because like she is a shapeshifter and they explain that she doesn't really age.
Yeah.
So, but then why the hell did Beast not age 30 years? But that's a side.
There's a joke in The Simpsons where like if a character says, well, if you notice any inconsistency, and they're kind of talking to each other, but they're also sort of talking to like you, the audience. Like, if you ever notice an inconsistency, a wizard did it. It was magic. And that's it.
Yes.
And then the character says, but what about, nope, a wizard did it. And then they just change the subject. No one want to talk about it anymore. So yeah, so maybe it was just magic.
It was. Why are we even talking about this? Okay, so we had.
Well, that kind of plays into, and I actually, if it's okay with you, Shane and Matt, both of you, is it okay if I go last this time?
Okay.
I just want to really hear what you guys have to say, because like I said to you, Shane, like mine's a little incomplete because you can never really complete the cast if you look at every decade.
Well,
like 1,000 X-Men, like,
and that's the interesting thing, and I think that's an interesting topic too. Is what X-Men do you want in it?
Yeah,
because
right.
like I know the original comics original team was like what Beast, Iceman, Jean Grey, Cyclops, and
Marvel Girl. Oh, you already said Jean Grey, right?
Forget who the fifth one was.
Archangel.
Yeah. So Angel, who I didn't even include in my list. So that's an interesting thing because there could be so many iterations. And like, obviously the 2000 X-Men film focused on a lot on Wolverine. They basically made the conscious decision to make these X-Men movies about Wolverine, which I think for me personally, I hope they do something different this time around.
Absolutely, please. Yes.
So, which is, I think, so I'm going to start at least at the top because I feel like one of the most important characters to cast in X-Men is Professor X. Because, like, who's going to lead this team? And I feel like it's also important because even if he's not the main villain, Magneto's going to be around. Because I feel like they're the two important, the bigger picture characters to the whole idea of it. So I guess, and here's an interesting thing too. So I spent a lot of my time thinking about how X-Men would fit into the MCU. Because realistically, that's how it's going to happen.
Sure.
And to put in perspective, right now, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in 2023 because of Endgame. So this was an interesting thing, and this can be a very big conversation to be had is think about what was the driving force of Magneto turning against humanity as a child?
The Holocaust.
The Holocaust. Is he going to be a Holocaust survivor in like 2023? And I think that's an interesting point too, because it's like, do you think somebody, like, I don't think somebody would have been in the Holocaust and still be honestly close to being moving around in 2023. And I think that's where room, because like I've seen fan casting of changing the race of Professor X and Magneto. I've basically seen Giancarlo Esposito be fan cast as basically every single villain possible that's left in Marvel. Like I've been hearing he could be Doctor Doom, he could be Magneto, he could be Norman Osborn. And I'm just like, you know what? I'd have Giancarlo Esposito be a villain in anything. So I wouldn't even be mad. So, but I guess I went with a little bit of a more traditional thought of like Professor X and Magneto. This is going to be an interesting one. And this is purely based off of how much I love the work this one particular actor has been doing recently. And I think it would be an interesting choice to make Hugh Grant Professor X.
Yeah.
Because for most of his career, most people are like, Hugh Grant's that like cute British guy who's in all of those romantic comedies, all the way up to like Love Actually. And I remember watching Cloud Atlas for the first time. And in literally every storyline Hugh Grant's in that, he's a villain. And I'm like, this is interesting. And watching him in Paddington 2 as Phoenix Buchanan, who's the antagonist of it, is absolutely fantastic. but like he's a really talented actor. Like he stole a lot of scenes he was in a lot of The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie's most recent film.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know if any of you have watched The Undoing on HBO, but like he is a scumbag, but he's so charming. And that's why he's so able to do that. And I think it would be really interesting to see somebody with that kind of presence as Professor X. So like my thought was like Hugh Grant, and I picked Magneto as Ray Fiennes.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting choice. That's a good choice.
Because like I've seen people cast him as Professor X in like fan casting and stuff like that. And like obviously Ray Fiennes has played some great film villains. Like he is one of the most complex, disturbing villains in Schindler's List as like Amon Goth. And like it's a hard, and like you need to, the tricky thing about Magneto is you need to believe him and what he's fighting for, and also realize that he wants to do horrible things for the sake of mutant kind. And I've seen, and like he was Voldemort. So like for a whole entire generation of people growing up reading and watching Harry Potter movies, he was like the most dastardly villain you can have. He was basically a wizard Hitler. So like I think he would be he's a really talented actor and has great range, and I think he would bring a commanding presence as Magneto. And I think it would be very interesting seeing the two of them going back and forth with each other. And also, I guess some of the context to these casting is I wouldn't necessarily go younger. Because like I know with X-Men First Class, you went with James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, because they were supposed to be younger versions of them. I went straight into like older versions of some of these characters.
Yeah.
Matt, how about you?
Just pick random two.
Well, I figured maybe we could at least like, did you cast Professor X and Magneto?
Mm-hmm.
So who did you think?
Okay. So I thought about it, and I had a couple of like choices where it's kind of in my head. I was like, well, okay, so if I take out who's played them in the past and just kind of replace them with other people that are kind of like similar age, or maybe like, I don't know, like the feel of them is basically the same. And then like I had an idea, and I was like, nah, that's boring. So then I scrapped it. And then I was like, okay, so then what happens? Actually, it's funny. So you made the reference about like race bending. We're like, like screw it, like why not? Let's see how crazy we get. And I was thinking about something that I was thinking about one of the actor roundtables where Mahershala Ali, who I want to be my Professor X. Let's see what happens. He was talking about the idea of like, even though a lot of people might see him as like the villain because he chooses to be like sometimes really serious, he's not necessarily gravitated to being a villain. He mostly just gravitated to somebody that like is complex. And then when he said that, I really thought of Moonlight. When I thought of Moonlight, I thought nurturing. It was like, I don't know how to put it, how I got on the train of thought, but I was like, I want him as Professor X. I want him as a young Professor X. I don't know. I think he'd be really interesting and cool. And I feel like if he shaved his head, like he would have looked like an alien.
Hugh Grant might look like an alien if you do.
What I was thinking. I was like, oh boy, Hugh. Then I was like, who can go opposite of him? And I didn't really put. I don't know. And then I immediately just thought, okay, well then, so who can be like a villain, but then who could also be complex? And then I was like, okay, so we're gonna do him. Then I might as well just like respin the other. So I was like, Idris Elba, because I've seen him in random stuff, and he's like really different. Like I've seen him in Beast of No Nation, where he's not like this hunky person. He's like very despicable and awful and angry and violent. And then I've seen him in like that Hobbs and Shaw movie. And that movie is definitely very different. That's more kind of, he's a villain, but then he's also like, I don't know, he's like larger than life, and it's kind of like cartoonish and silly. So he can definitely do both, because I think like to be intimidating, but then to also do that, but not be kind of like in a simmering kind of way. It has to be maybe a little more explosive. I think that I think he could do that pretty well. And I think I was also trying to, and then when I put those two together, then I kind of like thought in my mind, okay, do I want to change any of them? Because if I were to see both of them on screen, would I think that one would be scarier, or one would be, I don't know, would they be a good pairing off against one another? Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
I think so. And like, I think those are really good picks. And like, I watched the show Rami, and Mahershala Ali's in the second season, and he's a mentor. And like, I could definitely see that relationship. And I think that would be really awesome. And like, why did Marvel have to waste Idris Elba? Because like Heimdall never wound up doing like anything. And there's so many different characters he could have been that would have been really cool. But like, they used him in Thor and didn't let him do anything. And the interesting thing is Mahershala Ali's going to be Blade, which is going to be awesome, which I'm excited about that. But I think those are really good picks. And like, I'm going to bring back up your idea, Matt, because like I almost cast Giancarlo Esposito as Magneto and somebody else as Professor X, who I also decided to cast in a different role for mine. So I'm not going to bring them up right now because I think it's one of my more outside of the box picks for casting. But I guess, Alex, what thoughts were you having in terms of Professor X and Magneto?
I couldn't figure out. So two things. I love James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender so much. I just think they're freaking amazing. Everything they do is so good. I couldn't get them out of my mind. So I think that's why it's funny you started with that one, which makes sense to start with Professor X and Magneto. But I will say this. I like the Mahershala Ali. Mahershala. Yeah. I love that pick. I finally watched Moonlight, and yeah, that's one of the best films I think I've seen in the last like 5 years. It's really, really good.
And it won Best Picture for real.
Yeah, for real. Yes. After the mistaken announcement of what was La La Land, right? Yeah.
Awkward. But like, yeah. And here's the thing. I don't think it'd be the worst thing to recycle some actors. And like, if they wound up using both of them again, I wouldn't be mad.
I can't be mad because they're so freaking good. But here's what needs to stop. And in the story that I kind of had an idea of, I might just, believe it or not, omit a Magneto because they've gone to the well with Magneto in his story so much. And it's good. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a good story. But even by the time they got to Apocalypse, I was like, I'm still eating whatever they're throwing at me because I'm an X-Men fan. But they're going back to the well again with this character. And I know as a movie critic to be critical of that. And I'm not sure, I might omit Magneto, or was another idea I had was to start with like a big battle, because in a lot of the comics it would be like page 1, X-Men are just getting freaking wrecked by Magneto, and then by page 5, 6, 7, like they survived and they either locked him up or they figured him out somehow. That was the X-Men, somehow, some way they figured out how to like take him down. And like that could be an interesting way to start the movie.
That would be cool. And like, not to allude too much to my idea for a story, but I envision him being much more of a along the outside kind of character in this particular introduction, where he's like maybe like a bigger bad than what I envision being the main antagonist in that X-Men movie. but we'll talk about that soon. So
sure, but so my I guess my real answer is I didn't really have an answer for Professor X or Magneto.
We're just going to recycle them. We're going to have James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender back again. So I'm going to get the elephant out of the room first, like leading into the actual X-Men characters, because like so many people just envision Wolverine as the main character of the X-Men, which he's not. Like, at least in the comics, he's not. And obviously there's plenty of comics that just focus on him, but that's one of the things is you never really got to see them really be a team as much. And so, and here's the thing, I feel like there's can be two kinds of Wolverine castings. You could get Hugh Jackman version 2.0, or you can maybe get closer to the comics. And I want to tend away from Hugh Jackman version 2.0 because like I've seen a wide range, like I've seen Scott Eastwood want to be Wolverine. I'm like, no. Just because you're tall and you're a big young man, like you're just going to feel like a knockoff Hugh Jackman and never live up to Wolverine. And like for me, I wanted to go somebody that's a little bit smaller and scrappier, but intense. I don't think we're going to find, besides like Danny DeVito, somebody, or Joe Pesci, who's like actual Wolverine size from the comic books. So, and this is, and like I mentioned, I'm doing this, I tried doing this to not have anybody who's already in a Marvel movie. So like this could work. This is a big caveat if they don't bring over the Netflix Marvel shows, because John Bernthal as Wolverine would be insane. Because like how he is as Frank Castle in The Punisher, I want to see that. Because he brings a level of intensity, like rivaled by Michael Shannon, who
we got chicken or what?
It's like, I want you to buy this pen. Like, write something down. I don't have a pen. Supply equals demand. And like, it's funny because I never watched Walking Dead, but I know a lot of people, like their first big introduction to him was Shane from The Walking Dead. But like, I've seen John Bernthal in so many things. And like, a big thing is drawing on that Frank Castle performance was like, I want to see John Bernthal just go berserk. And I think he has the energy and like, it took me so much not to pick Tom Hardy in this. And because like, I didn't want to do that. And also technically, like trying to keep to my thing, it looks like they're trying to cross over Venom into the MCU. So like, he's already Eddie Brock. So he wouldn't be playing another character anyway. But I think John Bernthal would bring that intensity and be a cool casting for the character. Matt, who are you thinking?
So I want, after I was like scrolling through things and I was like, you know what I want? I want someone that can really, really act. You know what I mean? Not just get pissed, but also can really, really act. So, but then also somebody who has kind of like the frame for Wolverine. And then I thought, well, what if I do without the frame and then I just pick somebody that can act, but then who I've seen bulk up in the past. So I picked Jake Gyllenhaal. And I immediately thought about Southpaw, because he's like this giant, like, well, not giant, but he's like this really big guy. I don't know. I really liked that. And then maybe if I couldn't get him, then I would hop in a time machine and I would like whisper to Ed Norton, hey, you want to do the superhero movie? But like when he was like right about to sign on to do American History X. So like, because he was also, he could can act, B, what got pretty big. Like if you remember that scene, he took his shirt off and you saw like the thing on the chest that I'm not going to say because I don't want Shane's channel to get in trouble. like excellent. Both of them really good actors. Yeah, I think I want to see, because Wolverine, there's the berserker stuff, and then there's also like a lot of like acting, like it's like a lot of like emotional stuff too, because a lot of Wolverine is, there's a lot of conversations that you can probably have about Wolverine in relation to like trauma too, because like he's forgotten about his past, which is crappy, and his current life, like searching for that and wanting to be like alone or wanting to belong, like as a result of like stuff that's out of his control, like him, the Weapon X, all that crazy. There's like a lot of stuff that you can have a conversation or portray something that has feeling behind it, and not just them like flipping out. Even though I do really want to see him flipping. A good example of that would be what was it? So remember Apocalypse when he was in the movie, but it was like that 2 seconds. So that was awesome, but like they could have done more with that, or just not do that at all. But they could have done more with that. So
but they needed Wolverine, Matt, because nobody would go see it without Wolverine.
That's the crazy thing. I didn't understand why they put him in there. I don't understand. Well, I know why, but like,
you didn't like the cameo. You didn't.
I like the fact that like he looked comics accurate, but I don't know why they needed it to happen. I don't know.
My inner 7-year-old bought into it completely.
From a plot wise, it felt like a loose hanging plot. Like that whole entire thing where they get kidnapped by Stryker felt like a whole entire just why was this even in this movie? But we know why, because we wanted Wolverine. So I'm just gonna take that for what it was.
Apocalypse is for X-Men fanboys. You have to put aside your film criticism for that one, because I love it. But it is. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a good movie. I'm just saying I love it.
I feel like if you were going to pick any X-Men movie that is just a string of like scissor reels of like, I wanted to see this, that was Apocalypse.
Bryan Singer just going, all right.
F it. And I love both of those picks, Matt. And like, I really love Jake Gyllenhaal in Far From Home playing Mysterio. So like,
oh, I need to see that.
Obviously that was more of a fun role for him because it's more of like a manic performance and like a really charming performance. But like, see, like imagining Detective Loki smashing his keyboard and just like running his fingers through his hair from Prisoners, I can see that intensity in Wolverine. So Alex, what were you thinking?
First of all, both those choices are fantastic. I like them more than mine. But I love Jake Gyllenhaal. He's my favorite actor. I think he's my favorite actor. If you're looking for, because at the time when Hugh Jackman was cast back in 2000, people knew who he was, right? He had done some romance stuff. He had, like kind of, but he wasn't like an A-list star yet. Or maybe
he was mostly theater, I think.
Yeah,
in Australia.
Yeah, right. So he wasn't like, he wasn't really that well known.
And he was brought on last minute to replace Doherty Scott, who his filming for Mission Impossible 2 went over.
Oh.
So just think about that.
I don't even know who that is. So
exactly.
Holy crap!
Was that the good one or one of the bad ones? Was that one of the good ones or the bad ones?
Here's the thing: I love all the Mission Impossible movies except for 2, and that is that is number 2.
Metallica was on the soundtrack. June.
That movie feels like it's from John Woo. And like
the Dove movie?
Mission Impossible 2.
That's the Dove movie?
Yes, the Dove.
Okay.
Movie. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway.
I'm sorry. To wake up. No, that was funny. So the name that I put down, because people know who he is, and I know you guys know who he is, but he hasn't done anything like this. But he has great range. He can do probably any accent. Is Matthias Schoenhardt.
That's an interesting choice.
Yeah, because I think that, and he wouldn't have to be super jacked, but he looks like someone who could be, if you've ever seen that movie, The Drop, with him and Tom Hardy.
Yep.
He's actually really scary. So, and I do think Wolverine should scare you, he's more than any other character, I'm probably more attached emotionally to that Wolverine character than anybody else, and I agree. I wouldn't want him to be the main character, but I would want him to have that loose cannon sort of side to him, that scary side to him, but also this side of him that's dealing with a whole lot of shame. And so, quick, I would have to have a scene with him trying to get drunk, but failing to get drunk because his healing power wouldn't let him, at a bar, and Nightcrawler coming in dressed as a priest, disguised as a priest, because he's Nightcrawler. You can see that he's a mutant from 10 miles away. Walks in and tries to have a conversation with, like, hey man, like, what's going on? I'd have to have a scene like that, because there was a comic. It was a Wolverine comic. My favorite comic. It's just them sitting at a bar for like 15 pages and having this conversation.
You let us borrow that, I think, right?
Oh, for real? Oh, yeah. I did? Oh, cool.
Yeah. I was like, crap, why is that familiar? Because I'm not that giant of a comic fan. I was like, oh, crap. That's because of you. That's why it's familiar.
Yeah. I mean, it's like...
So,
oh, shit.
There's a film that I want to recommend. It's called The Mustang. And Matthias Schoenaerts is in that. And I can see that. Because, like, he's just... Like, the whole film is just white-knuckling, like, trying to overcome this intensity in him and try to find peace. And I feel like that's a big part of Wolverine, is trying to let that rage go and all that trauma. So that's definitely an awesome pick. Yeah. So
I need to, I've some people in my family have been telling me you have to watch that movie. So I think I saw like 5 minutes of it. I need to see it.
Mm-hmm. So the next character, I think, is the most needed to redeem character, because for some reason they don't want to show Cyclops any love. And it's like, literally the leader of the X-Men is made to look like a complete moron. So, like, I have nothing against James Marsden, but they screwed him over. Like, all they gave him to work with is just being a whiny, jealous guy in the first X-Men. He was like a zombie for most of the second one. And then they just put him out of his misery in Last Stand. And, like, I really like Ty Sheridan a lot. Yeah. And I don't feel like, I know a lot of people made fun of this, him dropping the F-bomb in Dark Phoenix. But, like, I felt like that was one of the only times you saw some real intensity and, like, stepping up at a Cyclops. So I'm like, I'll take this.
It was nice. It was nice. It was refreshing.
Yeah. So I already talked to Alex about this, I'm pretty sure. But, like, I would cast Armie Hammer as Cyclops, because I want someone who looks like I'm in command, I'm the leader of this group, and will stand tall and fight for the X-Men and lead them. And that's Armie Hammer. When I look at Armie Hammer, I'm like, that guy looks like he could command a team and lead them. And also, he's a talented actor and has some serious presence. So if you really want to see how far he can go, watch Sorry to Bother You.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So, man, that movie.
Alex, this is one of the weirdest movies you'll ever watch, but it's worth it.
Okay, I'll write that one down.
So, Matt,
that is an interesting recommendation, Shane. I once recommended someone Pulp Fiction, and I remember, like, they finished it, and they were like, "Yeah, so I was digging it. It was a little intense because the cursing. They didn't like cursing, apparently. I didn't ask them before I recommended it, but then it got to a weird scene, and then I stopped watching it because someone was getting hurt really bad, and it was weird. Damn." And I was like, "What scene exactly?" Well, there was a leather person.
There's a kid. Oh man.
I can
So
only imagine Alex watching Sorry to Bother You when he gets to the scene in the end.
I'm not going to say anything about the movie, Alex. That's it.
I'm not going to say anything,
So,
I promise.
As long as that song is playing.
I went into that movie with just the trailer, and my God, did that trailer work because it didn't give away a thing.
Oh,
Man. Who are you going to redeem Cyclops with?
Okay, so this guy hasn't been in a lot of stuff, but it helped me pick this guy because his name is Kyle Gallner, and he was in the movie Dear White People, and he was in the movie the newer version of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I liked him in Dear White. The Elm Street, it was okay, but I liked him in that movie, and I also liked him opposite some of the leads inside of Dear White People, the movie. And then actually, and picking him made me think, mostly because of his age, because I also wanted, when I was thinking of the ages of some of these people, like I didn't want to have like a super old Cyclops and then like a really young like Jean Grey. So I was trying to think of like stuff in that way. So then picking him actually helped me with my Storm, but I'll talk about her, I guess, when we get to her. But I don't know. I just think he's really interesting. He's like confident, but then I guess so. Even though I agree that they didn't really do Cyclops a lot of love, I personally didn't really like the character like so intensely. Like I remember watching the animated series as a kid, like, which is awesome, by the way. If I ever learn how to play a guitar, that would be like literally the first thing that I learned how to play. Probably way too advanced for a beginner, but whatever. But like, I don't know. So I never really cared too much about Cyclops, but he's cool. He has lasers. He can absorb lasers, and he has abs. I don't know, whatever the hell. But he can fight. I just gotta look for somebody that can fit that role, and I don't know. I just picked him. But yeah.
Does this look like him? Is this?
Yes, I looked him up too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But then like look for a picture where he's not like a different pic, like no facial hair, and then think about.
I can see that.
Like,
younger.
Yeah, boom.
Yeah.
28
and
years old.
A visor on his face. Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, totally. The interesting thing is, I think you said that like how you picked one person and that led to you thinking, oh, I could be that same thing happened to me. And so that might determine like the average age of your cast. And watching the animated series, because I loved the animated series, they didn't look young on the show. Jubilee looked young. I didn't cast a Jubilee.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I went with Kitty Pryde instead. I'll get to that later. But I just, they always looked and felt older, and the subject matter they were dealing with was definitely more mature than my 7-year-old brain was always ready for, you know. But Cyclops, I agree. I was never a huge fan of him, but at the same time, he was so important to the team. Mm-hmm. And I think Armie Hammer's visually, that's a good pick, like casting choice, because he's got that chest, you know. He's kind of, Cyclops to me is an interesting the interesting part about his character is that he's trying to be like the Superman of the X-Men, but he's not Superman. He's not even close to being, but he's trying to be. He has to be this field general, this leader. When Professor X isn't around, he's got to make all the decisions pretty much. And that's why Wolverine hates him. That's one reason why Wolverine hates him. So I have one or the other. It's going to be interchangeable between these two actors with Cyclops and another character. My first was Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I could see that.
Who does not have that same sort of physique, obviously. But I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is good at playing these characters who are kind of stuck in the middle and kind of having to handle situations that he doesn't necessarily feel one way or the other on, but he has to kind of move forward with it. And so I really like, and I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I love Don John. Like as a director, I want to see more from him because I thought that was a really tough subject matter to tackle. But
he bulked up for that too.
He did. That's right. That's a good point.
Yeah, I can see it on that level
he had to, because that character is incredibly narcissistic, you know. But in the case of Cyclops, I think he'd have to make those decisions, and you could see him getting angry with Wolverine and just getting fed up with Gambit, you know, because Gambit and Wolverine are learning how to be part of a team without, you know, straying away, you know, without going rogue. Another character that I want to talk about. The other pick, and I'll talk about it, but I like him for a different character because I just watched Wonder Woman 84 was Chris Pine, because I think Chris Pine would make a good Cyclops visually, but he would have to tap into the Cyclops that I want to see is a Cyclops that gets pissed, you know, and a Cyclops that is a leader, is a politician of sorts, but ultimately just gets fucking fed up with his own group and has to like lay down the law, you know. So
that's interesting. Like, so both of you guys are thinking in terms of like the leadership qualities and how he never really got like spotlight. He never got a chance to sort of flex that muscle in like the other movies.
No,
I didn't think about that. I guess I didn't think about that because I wasn't so attached to him like that, so I didn't feel like they get just that disappointed. But when I think of Cyclops, the thing I find interesting is like in the comics, which I don't read at all, but in the comics, he has like this relationship with his brother, and they have like this tragic backstory of like being separated and stuff like that. That's what I would want to see. And that's interesting. So, and also, like a lot of the people like that I chose, like a lot of it skews younger. And also, I'm really interested now with your two. Like, I'm curious, who are you guys choosing for Jean Grey's?
So that was actually my next one. So I'm gonna hop into that. So,
who was Scott making out with exactly?
I originally had Jessica Chastain because like a lot of mine's definitely not like yours, Matt. Like I feel like I have like a veteran X-Men team kind of thing. And like there's some of the younger characters, but like they're veterans. And I was originally going to go with Jessica Chastain, but then which would still be an amazing pick. And also she got completely wasted in Dark Phoenix.
It was like X-Files character meets
literally
X-Men. It was
any woman, any woman could have been that role, and that was a shame. But I actually went with Evan Rachel Wood and that was after she's such a talented actress between like she had film Kajillionaire that came out this year, but like she's like the star of Westworld. And she, I think, would be a really interesting choice. Wow. And like I could see her dealing with like Jean Grey has to deal with a lot of shit and balancing a lot of things, which also I am definitely not picking Dark Phoenix Saga as my story because like I think they need to let that one air out for a while and just don't think about that right now.
I think we should all be in the pens when they make that movie again.
So I think like based off of what she did in Westworld and like I've seen her do some amazing acting. She had a tough role in the Wrestler playing his daughter.
Oh,
like she has the acting chops, and I don't know. I can see her and Armie Hammer working together, and like that's the tricky thing too, is because some of the X-Men you feel like they have to pair together well, and like obviously those two have to. So I think she can carry that complexity of Jean Grey, but like Jessica Chastain would also be an amazing choice because she's just flat out a great actress. But Matt, I'm interested who you picked because yours seems to be skewing a little younger.
So my Cyclops, I think he's like 31. So my Jean Grey, I want to choose somebody that was like that same age, like around that age. So I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, and Google gave me the worst recommendations. And you know, like when you're googling something, and instead of like clicking on page 2, you're just like, no, I'm just gonna type in something different. I'm not doing that. So I typed in something different. Don't remember what I typed in, and I was like, well, yeah, why not? Let's do Emma Stone. I want Emma Stone to be my Jean Grey. I think that she can do like the explosive stuff. Like if you watch that monologue that she has in Birdman, or she says like, "Dad, you're not important." Like she can do like the yelling thing. I think that I can do the special effects thing. I didn't see La La Land, but I hear there's like a bunch of special effects all over the place and stuff like that, where she can do like the green screen. I don't know. I liked that pairing. I saw them together in my mind on screen, and they seemed like they would work. So yeah, I like that. Also, I just like Emma Stone in sort of anything. I feel like she's kind of like a female Gary Oldman. She's kind of like acting Play-Doh, which is really awesome. Like she can just like do anything. She can just be anybody. I love that. That chameleon stuff. I can't do it. I don't know. I just think it's awesome. So yeah, Emma Stone. Emma Stone.
I think that's an interesting pick, and I would be interested to see how she does that, especially with some of the more intense things that Jean Grey could potentially be dealing with. It's an interesting choice. I definitely would not have thought about Emma Stone like casting that role. How about you, Alex?
It's funny, man. It's such a fun. This is so fun because, okay, so Jean Grey is, for some reason, she's like my least favorite character. She's like my weakest link, which made her perfect for the whole Phoenix thing that happened. Because she is, I mean, that's how they build her character up in the animated series. But she, like Professor X, she has an incredible amount of empathy. So, and you know, she's a lot quieter than she has like the smallest drum out of any of the other X-Men. And so then when the Phoenix Saga things happen, she's got the biggest drum in the universe. You know, yeah. She's just, you know, she can just snap her fingers and everything turns to ash. I've never been a huge fan of Jean Grey, but I've always been a fan of Cyclops and Wolverine having their, you know what, measuring contest about her.
Yeah.
Because that's just fun, you know, and the jealousy. Ironically, Wolverine's the one that's like jealous and whiny, you know, in the story, not Cyclops, yeah. You know, but Jessica Chastain was the first thing that popped into my head, but there's an immediate block to it because of Dark Phoenix. But I've got a blank next to her name. I didn't have anybody.
You brought up an interesting point because, like, even if you think about what casting they've done so far, like they cast a model more or less as Jean Grey originally. Because like Famke Janssen was like a model before she was in GoldenEye. Like,
oh, that's right.
Because like I don't think anybody's gonna go out and be like Famke Janssen's like the greatest actress.
I wasn't crazy about her performance. She was one of my she was just like the weakest link for me.
Well, and I think that, and then I was not happy when they cast Sophie Turner because she was definitely one of my least favorite parts of Game of Thrones. And I'm just like, this isn't work. And then they put a whole entire movie on her back.
Yeah.
And that didn't really work. And it's interesting because like, that's the thing. Cause like, I feel like they're team-wise at the forefront of the X-Men, but aren't exactly the most interesting of the X-Men, the two of them.
They need to be there though. Like,
yeah,
it's just important to the other character. They make the other characters look more cool.
So there's two characters that I want to talk about a little in depth before, like, I'm just going to run through the rest of them. One, because like a big one for me is Beast. Because did either of you cast Beast?
Yes.
Okay. So this might run a little short. And like, this was a tough one because I never liked Nicholas Hoult as Beast. I never felt like he reached, because like it's okay in First Class that he wasn't there, but like they used his character over the course of 30 years and he never reached the point of being like that strong leader. And like, I don't know, like I get this highly intelligent, kind of parental feel over like out of Beast. And like I feel like he's a natural leader on the X-Men. And he might not be the leader of the X-Men, but like I feel like if you're going to go to any of the X-Men for like advice, you go to Beast. And I loved Kelsey Grammer as Beast. Like I feel like he had the presence of that, and like they like rewatching Last Stand, he's one of the highlights of the film. Like his addition to it, because like I feel like he had that like powerful voice and presence to it. And this is probably my most outside of the box choice, because this was one of my thoughts for Professor X. And this might be really weird, but I thought Denzel Washington.
What?
And
that's interesting.
because like I was thinking somebody who has presence and
Look at Alex.
Because I've seen Denzel. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because I feel like he has to have presence and a commanding presence and be somebody like I would go talk to him about like advice and stuff like that and have that controlling presence, but also needs to mess you up if you are fighting him, because like Beast is incredibly powerful. And like I guess this might be weird, but something that was running through my mind was think about the movie Fences. And like he's a powerful, commanding fighter. I feel like obviously he's not the warmest of fathers, but like I feel like he's somebody that could, if he needed to lay a beat down on somebody, he'd do it in a second. And I feel like Beast is a tough one to be able to balance that between like he needs to have a commanding and one of the trickiest things, like I was trying to think in my head, is like, who do I look at? I'm like, they look like they're a really smart person. And just being able to have that. And like, I guess it was the Frasier thing that made Kelsey Grammer work, because like you look at Kelsey Grammer, he's just like, he's a smart dude, or at least has that appearance because of roles like Frasier. And like, he has to be that diplomat, and commanding and fighting for things on that level. But like, the line was really weird in X-Men Last Stand, but it's like, sometimes you have to go into the fight. And like, I wouldn't want to mess with Denzel Washington. And so that's probably my weirdest choice. But Alex, who did you think? Okay. So I know we're good. So Matt, I know you didn't cast me.
Speaking about Denzel Washington, by the way, Shane, is I like, so he's in the animated series. There was a lot of like he wasn't just like nerdy and timid and awkward. He wasn't. He's not Peter Parker. You know, he's not Peter Parker and the Hulk. Like he's like this really cool, but also like academic. Like he quotes Shakespeare randomly. Like yeah, no, that's an interesting choice. I like that. That's cool. I think he would have to eat a lot. He'd have to do like a Christian Bale in the movie Vice. We're just like he's gonna have to like bulk up, but that'll be interesting.
I feel like you could do a lot of that with a practical suit too. But well, look at Nicholas Hoult never like screamed, "I'm Beast," which also is one of the reasons why I hate like that was one of my least favorite parts of the recasting of X-Men. Well, at least before Alex gets back and he talks about his Beast, perfect timing. So, because like, I guess Alex, who are you thinking for Beast?
I'm sorry, man. I drink coffee and water all day, so
that's okay.
Usually in the middle of our shows, I'm just going to the bathroom.
All good.
I love Denzel Washington. As I was in the bathroom, I was thinking he's just one of these. It is an out of the box choice, Shane, because I've seen him on interviews, and I could almost like feel his agent present, like on behind the camera, like saying, no, that ain't happening. Because Denzel, like there are these actors like Denzel, Tom Hanks, and even if you go back to Jack Nicholson in the 70s, they all played different types of characters, but every character they play kind of has to have that same drive. They have to have that same lane. With Tom Hanks, and Denzel, both of them have this very, like, there's a moral center, and whether they're good or bad, I think with Tom Hanks, it's almost like always good,
Except for Cloud Atlas.
Yeah. Was he a villain in that? He went back and forth.
Yes.
Was it good or bad? Was it good or bad?
Some of the stories he was good. That's the weird thing about Cloud Atlas. But we can have a whole entire conversation about that. But
yeah, but Denzel, I saw it once before. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting
cool movie. It's an ambitious movie. Let's just put it that way. Some of the storylines work a lot better than others. Let's just put it that way.
That's how I felt. I found myself wanting them to stay with things and not go. And I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. It's like, oh, I wish they did more with this. But I just bring up those actors because, when I think of Denzel, like when Denzel's cast in a movie, it's a Denzel movie. When Tom Hanks is cast in a movie, it's a Tom Hanks movie. So it'd be hard. That's one of the reasons why I'm not sure you'll ever get a Denzel Quentin Tarantino collaboration, because when Denzel's on the set, it's his house, and he plays those types of characters, whether they're good or bad, and so I don't know if I would want to cast a Denzel Washington as a Beast character, but it is ambitious for sure.
And it was tough because I love Beast and I was really struggling to figure out who to cast in that. And like the one person I thought of that even just a little bit close along the lines of Kelsey Grammer was like a James Spader. I feel like he exhibits that same kind of intelligence and everything, but like I mentioned a couple times already, I'm trying to keep it like they haven't been in a Marvel movie yet, and he's Ultron. Yeah. So like that wouldn't work. So
also they would definitely need a body double.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other interesting thing about Beast, before I tell you who I had in mind, is one of the reasons why what's the most recent actor, Holt,
Nicholas Holt.
Yeah, they obviously didn't want him to be Beast for all that time on screen because it's a lot of makeup, it's a lot of time in the makeup chair. That's one of the biggest problems is with Beast. Is you want him to be Beast. You don't want him to be Bruce Banner becoming Beast all the time, and that's kind of what we got. And I like Nicholas Holt, and I don't have anything bad to say about what they did. But if you want Beast, someone's got to be willing to be in that makeup chair all day, every day.
Well, and that's a tricky thing too, because in Last Stand, Kelsey Grammer didn't have a ton of screen time.
Yeah.
So that probably made it a little bit easier because they didn't do the transforming Beast. He was Beast. The whole time he was in the movie. It's just he wasn't in the movie that much. And I guess you could get around that because Beast doesn't necessarily have to be in the movie a whole lot.
But when he's there, you want him to have an impact because he's the most intelligent, maybe arguably more intelligent than Professor X, and he's also one of the strongest too. So, and one of the most agile, and he can be a mentor and a leader, usually from behind, not out front. And so that makes his character interesting. The two guys I thought of was actually, I thought Javier Bardem would make a good Beast.
That's an interesting choice, and just as outside the box as mine. And I feel like I wouldn't say no to that. I feel like you definitely have the presence, and because like I know a lot of people probably just know him as Anton Chigurh,
Right.
but like I've seen him in like regular roles as parents, as fathers, and like men just like in dramas. A lot of them are more like Spanish language films is when he's in those kind of roles. But like I could see that kind of figure and mentor in that. So like I think that would be an interesting choice.
I think maybe something about his face. He's got this kind of like flat like face, you know, he's got this big kind of, you know, face, a bigger upper body. And so that was him. And then the only other one I thought of was maybe Benicio del Toro. I thought that would be, because he's a character actor, and like, you know, it might be an interesting one for him too.
I feel like Beast is the hardest X-Men to cast because exactly what you said, he needs to be smart, huge, and like he needs to balance so many things. And that's the tricky thing about translating some characters. Because like, you know, that was not Kelsey Grammer doing those flips and shit in X-Men The Last Stand. So
get Jackie Chan.
Yeah. I'm going to go into one more character in depth and then just kind of run through the rest of them, because like I feel like another character that didn't really get full justice up to this point is Storm. Because like I felt like they were trying to make her the new leader of the X-Men in Last Stand, but there was just so much crap going on in that movie that it just kind of get lost in the shuffle. And like they basically paired her up with like a mid-tier antagonist because she was fighting the super quick one, who's not Quicksilver, I guess, just female Quicksilver, whatever. And this was a tough one because like I wanted somebody who was commanding and had like a strong presence. And I feel like if she was younger at this point, I would cast like a Viola Davis as Storm, but like I don't think that's really going to work at this point,
This age,
to be honest. But like, and this is probably one of my lesser known actors. I cast Betty Gabriel. And this was interesting because she's in Get Out. She's the housekeeper.
oh, okay.
Like, I don't know. I guess who I was envisioning as Storm was like, had like a deeper, more commanding kind of voice. And like, I've seen fan casting of like Janelle Monáe. And like, Janelle Monáe has plenty of charisma. But I don't know. I guess I just wanted, because like, I guess what was going through my head is in the comics, especially recently, like she's like the Queen of Wakanda. Like she's paired up with Black Panther. And like, I imagine like, who would I see be able to have that commanding presence and be like this regal presence and also bring the lightning, obviously, and be powerful in that. And like, I thought she was an interesting choice. So for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, look her up. But Matt, who are you thinking for Storm? Or did you not cast Storm?
No, I casted Storm. What I wanted to do was kind of like the same thing. I really wanted to pick like people that were younger because I remember when I heard about First Class, like before I knew the trailer came out, whatever. I was thinking, I wonder how they're going to do this. I wonder if I'm going to like these new people. And then I actually really, really did. I don't know if the internet loved them. I can't remember. Kind of like how when Heath Ledger's Joker like images came out before the movie, and people were like, "What the hell is this?" And then he had to be like,
"Crap!" And then everybody's like,
"Yeah, it's like, whoa, okay, never mind, I'm completely wrong." I forget. I don't know what the online reaction was when I guess all these people came out, like Michael Fassbender as Magneto, but I really liked the idea of like some of these people I have never seen, like that guy that played Banshee. I don't know who the hell that is.
That is a creepy asshole brother from Get Out.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Haileigh
Oh
Black.
yeah, I hate that guy. He has weird hair. Yeah, I hate that guy. He was so weird. The character, not the man.
Yeah.
But like, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to have somebody that was new, but also that I thought could act. So what connected me with this person who's named Logan Browning, who is the one of the main characters, that I guess the most main character in the show Dear White People on Netflix. I think that she is awesome. I think she balances like the I guess like the strength and then also like the vulnerability and like the emotional stuff. And I feel like someone like Storm who has to be extremely strong, but then also like, I'm most positive Storm has a like she also has like a weird trauma situation in her backstory where I think like before when she was like a child, it was some kind of war or something that her village was in, and then she was trapped under rubble, and I don't know, there's like a lot of weird stuff. Like there's a lot of interesting backstories that have never been delved into, I guess, because people wanted to focus on Wolverine for so much. So I think like that would be an interesting thing. I don't know. There's like a lot of cool things that I think they can do with all these characters. But in my younger X-Men, I really liked her because I just like that actress.
Yeah.
I just really like that actress. So yeah, throw her in my movie.
It's
Spend $15 to see it.
I did have another idea, and this was outside of the box because of a lot of her work up to this point. Because like, I really like Issa Rae, and like mostly up to this point, she's done comedy. And like, I know she was in Lovebirds with Camille Nanjiani. She has her show Insecure, and like, I thought she would be a potentially interesting choice to like try to get somebody that's mostly been known for comedy to do something a little bit more not comedy. But I really like that actress from Dear White People, the show. So that's an interesting pick. Because like, I like Alexandra Shipp, the actress who plays Storm in the new ones. But like, yet again, they didn't really do much with her. Like, yeah.
It's a really good point, and you know, going back to talking about the rubble, you know, her claustrophobia is her Achilles heel. So otherwise, she's very strong. You know, she's not too strong if she gets hit necessarily. Like if she gets shot, Wolverine gets shot, he goes, you know, she gets shot, she feels it. She doesn't have that, you know, like any of that invincibility, but she can protect herself really well. She's very smart, and she can just, you know, she can bring about a blizzard, you know, in 20 seconds. And seeing them use that in a very clever and creative way could be a lot of fun. Seeing them use the claustrophobia against her, and you as an audience member, if they can kind of find a way to build that up so that you can show that weakness, I think that could be a lot of fun. I did look up the ages of most of the people I'm casting, and they're mostly from like age 39 to 45. So I'm definitely casting an older, you know, cast here. And this next actress could have done Storm 20 years ago, but she was a lot younger then. And that's Rosario Dawson.
I also thought about her too.
Yeah, she could have done it when she was 21, but you know, that was Halle Berry's time. And you know, but now at 41, she's probably 7 years older than Halle Berry was. So it's like she's not that much older than Halle Berry was when she did Storm.
You could still kick ass. Just watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Oh, she's in The Mandalorian.
I won't say much more in case you haven't watched more of it.
Okay. That's okay. I don't plan on it necessarily unless you really recommend it.
The show's amazing.
Okay.
To be honest, it's probably my favorite Star Wars. Like anything. Like I like that show more than any of the movies, honestly.
You are about to get a lot of interesting messages in your inbox. You're about to get
to be fair, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are like Star Wars God and Jesus right now because they're like the saviors of Star Wars after this most recent season of Mandalorian. So I think a lot of people might agree with me. It was insane, but Rosario Dawson's a great choice too.
Yeah, no, always. I mean, I always loved it. Clerks 2, Death Proof. He Got Game. She was super young in that, but she was really really good. She's always been good, and I think she'd be good for Storm. Definitely.
Awesome. So I'm going to do a quick run through the rest of them that I cast. And to be honest, I would probably not go with all of these characters to begin with because, like, that's one of the tricky things about the X-Men is, like, it's a big team. And I feel like they would benefit from starting off with a smaller team and slowly expanding so that they could actually, like, build off of it. And this is also one of the reasons why I was okay with X-Men being by itself because, like, they're basically the Avengers. It's just like they have their whole entire own team of superheroes. But so quickly running through. So Iceman, I put Lucas Hedges. And
that's the boy erased guy.
Hmm?
No, that's the boy erased guy. He was in mid-90s.
He's been in Lady Bird. He's been in Manchester by the Sea.
Oh yeah, I like that kid.
I took Bobby Drake as a younger character. I felt like he would benefit from being one of the younger ones, even though technically in the comics he was one of like the original X-Men. Right. But like I wasn't mad that they made him a younger guy in the first run of the X-Men films as one of the students. Gambit, I put Ben Barnes. And this was most of like a big choice based off of his work in Westworld and also in the Punisher series as Jigsaw. And like, I don't know if either of you have really watched Westworld, or I don't know if either of you like, yeah, because like he was originally Prince Caspian. I think that was like his first big role in one of the Chronicles of Narnia films, but like I feel like he has like a roguish kind of personality in like Westworld. And so like, I think that could be an interesting choice. So I'm going big names here with some of these other ones. So like Rogue, I picked Margot Robbie.
Oh, wow.
I think that would be an interesting choice because like she could definitely do the acting.
Sure.
And I think that would be an interesting choice. Colossus, I did this purely based off of physique. And I don't know how much they would get out of this role, but I put Henry Cavill because he looks like a mountain.
Yeah, got it. So someone who lives in the gym.
So like, unless you're going to go Deadpool route and just have a fully CGI character for the most part. Kitty Pryde, I put Saoirse Ronan.
I should have known you're going to find some way to have that actress in.
Shut up, Matt. And the reason I picked her was because like things like Lady Bird and like she can play that like small hometown girl. And I feel like Kitty's a bit of that kind of character and can be that character. And then the last one that I actually cast was Nightcrawler. And this is an interesting choice, but I thought I'd go with it, and it's Domhnall Gleeson. Because he's like, he has that like gangly kind of build to him, and he's a really talented actor. And I thought that would be an interesting choice because like, it made me sad that they didn't bring Nightcrawler back after X2. Because like I felt like Alan Cummings was a really good choice for that, but the thing is like he didn't want to do all that makeup thing, and like Cody Smith-McPhee had a couple of moments in like Apocalypse and in like rewatching Dark Phoenix. Like he had one moment where he got like a little vicious and straight stabbed a guy through the neck with his tail, so that was really intense. But like those are just some more that I kind of threw out there. Like, I feel like those would be characters that would be built up over time. I felt like the ones that I picked were like my main idea of what like the core of the team would be, at least to start. Did either of you cast any other characters? Like, Alex, I'm assuming you have Gambit there.
Oh, I do. Did you want to go first, Matt? Like with the rest of yours?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I just went. So what I did when I was casting, I just thought of like the first movie. It's kind of like just subtracted everybody, and I was like, okay, so who would I want to play, and who would I want to play these characters? What would make sense in terms of like the pairings? That's the way that I did it, basically. So that's the reason why all the characters are gonna look like this. We did Professor X, we did Cyclops, Sword, the Wolverine. The actress that was in a show that I really mostly liked, in Gotham, that was a really awesome show. Selena Kyle, or Catwoman, this actress is named Cameron Bikondova. I don't know. I thought she was really awesome. I want Cole Sprouse as Bobby Drake from Sweet Life and Riverdale, all that stuff. I put Alicia Vikander as my Mystique because I just think that she's awesome. I think she can do a lot of the stuff that Mystique would have to do. So I don't know. I just think that she's awesome. I put Tom Hardy as my Sabretooth. That's my Sabretooth.
There you go.
Richard Jenkins as Senator Kelly, and then I put a three-way tie for Toad. Either Nick Cage, Gary Oldman, or Christopher Mintz-Plasse or Police.
McLovin?
Who was McLovin. Yeah, either one of those three.
Wow, those were all good picks for Toad.
Yeah.
That sounds like an off-Broadway play.
You got to up Toad's role a bit, I think, to grab Gary Oldman.
All three should get together and get the movie.
A young version, older one, and the eldest.
Just competing, just stabbing each other in the back so they can go, like.
That's Nick Cage's performance as Toad.
Please do that again. Please do that again. Oh man,
that'd be amazing. Well, I'll run down my list real quick, and so for Gambit, I really want to see somebody do something special with Gambit, and I wanted to think of somebody a little bit older, but the first person that came to mind is 20. He's only 25 right now. Is Timothy Chalamet, just because he walked into a room. This kid is just cool. I always grew up wishing I could be as cool as people like that. They just walk into a room and he's just cool. There's no, all he's got to do is have a cup of coffee. He's got that coolness about him, I think would be good for Gambit. Rogue, this is also out of the box and she probably wouldn't do it, but she would be good for it, is Charlize Theron, because she's strong. Everything she does, she's always so strong. And I want Rogue to be strong. She's the strongest freaking X-Men there is. She is the strongest one. And so you need to undo the whole Anna Paquin thing. I never liked Anna Paquin. I never liked her. I don't know what it is.
They didn't do a whole lot with Rogue either, which is interesting because, they basically made her a damsel in distress for the first X-Men film, and then didn't really do much with her, and then used her as a thematic device in Last Stand. It's like, should she get the cure or not? And then she's like, where'd she go? Where'd Rogue go? They basically they had Elliot Page come in and just be like, goodbye. Kitty Pryde became the new member of the X-Men, and just like, Rogue's gone.
Yeah, I know. It sucked. It's too bad because they were kind of stuck. The Rogue character was kind of stuck with that. But in the early '90s, Rogue was badass, and she was also really funny too.
Mhm.
And seeing, I don't know, Timothy Chalamet and Charlize Theron, flirting together might be, I don't know, could be interesting. It could be interesting. It's 20 years, apart there. I don't even know if Morph was created until the animated series, but I got Casey Affleck as Morph. I just love Casey Affleck, such a likable guy, and to see Morph, basically become the villain of my movie. That I think that could be really compelling. To take somebody who's very likable and make him into just the most evil guy you've ever known could be really interesting. I've got Margaret Qualley as Kitty Pryde, partially because I have stars in my eyes for her, and but she's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and she also played a very somewhat similar character, but less of a hippie in Nice Guys.
Yeah.
So she hates the police in both.
Okay, wait a minute. So, because you brought up the Nice Guys, I have my new pick for Beast, and it's Russell Crowe.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one for Beasts.
How did I not think of that earlier?
That's it. That's it.
What do you guys think of the whole? I don't know if it's probably dead now, but I feel like the moment that it dies, that's when it starts like getting talked about again. The whole Channing Tatum wanting to be a Gambit thing. How did you guys feel about that?
Never gonna happen.
Tell me, how do you? So why? And both of you guys, like, how do you feel about that, and why?
I don't think Disney has any intentions on picking up that project that Fox couldn't make work. Like how much they just, because like how much they were just like, oh, New Mutants. They're not going to pick up that movie that was in development hell for like years. Because like apparently Channing Tatum couldn't get the accent right. He because apparently he's from that area. And like this was a passion project for him. But like, oh no, I don't want to like. I don't want to say I don't want to see it. Like, I guess it's more like I wouldn't care if it got made or not.
I wouldn't. I wanted him. I thought about him for like another character, but I ultimately didn't write his name down. But I think, I don't know, I don't see him as Gambit. I just don't. He doesn't have that presence to me. But if he really wanted to challenge himself, he'd be going against his type. When he did The Hateful Eight, he showed him not saying he was bad, but you could see that he was a little out of his element. Role, but he sits down across from Bruce Dern, and I'm not completely buying into his role.
And Bruce Dern's just sitting there like,
yeah, I'm completely buying Bruce Dern.
Yeah,
I'm completely buying Bruce Dern, but not completely buying into Channing Tatum in that role. So, the big, dumb, goofy, hot guy is kind of his thing. And that's not Gambit. That's not Gambit. Gambit's a lot more clever than that. And I just don't get that from Channing Tatum.
That's usually my thing too.
Like, here's
big,
usually my thing.
What'd you say? I thought you were saying, yeah, big dumb goofy hot guy. That's my thing too.
Looking at, so in terms of like wrapping things up, so we talked a lot about who we cast. So I guess to wrap things up, kind of putting out our pitches on what story we want to see in this X-Men film. And for me, I didn't want to, because they've taken on some big storylines already. And some of them they done great. Like Days of Future Past, I thought was so awesome. And like they made that work somehow. Like Dark Phoenix has been beaten to death and like should stay dead. And like they did Apocalypse. Not right away. I would like to see that done a little differently at some point. But I think an interesting way to start things off, and the reason that I picked this is I feel like without jumping right into like a full versus Magneto and his Brotherhood of Mutants, one aspect of X-Men that we really haven't seen is the Morlocks. And I think that would be an interesting way to pit like this team of mutants against this even more ostracized, different group of mutants. And I feel like the film could definitely deal with like what most people see would be the Morlocks. And they perceive them as a bunch of freaks and stuff like that. And like the X-Men being caught in the middle, trying to balance having these relations, but also like fighting those stereotypes of like what mutants are. And I think that would be an interesting thing to start off with. And obviously I didn't cast any of the Morlocks because I'm like, I already have a giant list of people here.
So, when you make the last time I thought of the Morlocks was when I watched Blade Runner 2049, when Ryan Gosling's in front of those, replicant like outcasts in the sewers. And I went, oh shit, that makes me think of the Morlocks, and I thought if they were going to make a third one, that obviously that was going to play a big part in that, the next Blade Runner movie. But I really like that idea of the Morlocks being involved. I also really like the idea of, I forget the name of the group. It might come to me, but it's Sabretooth's son that leads it. It's the group that's basically anti-mutant, and it's a little, obviously it's very resonant, in our society, especially right now, of just like,
I remember that storyline too. And like, that's one of the reasons why I want to pick it, because I feel like right now it's a very, very relevant story.
Yeah. But I don't know. It could be cool if you use a movie like The Warriors and then take the X-Men, the Morlocks, the anti-mutant people, and you kind of have them converge, with, in my mind, like I said, I love the Morph character, even if he was just kind of created to be kind of killed off in the animated series. Imagine if he's the one kind of manipulating things and pulling the levers to get three.
My idea was Magneto would be the one kind of pulling some of the strings, because like I feel like Magneto kind of wants to start a war, and he wants to have the power to finish it. So I feel like, and that's why I thought of casting Magneto, even if he wasn't the main antagonist, he's kind of poking the bear from all directions. And I think that would be an interesting place to build up to, like, obviously he was going to be a big bad in one of the X-Men films. But I didn't want to go, like, one thing I appreciated about X-Men First Class is that Magneto built up to being an antagonist, and we got the Hellfire Club, where some of that casting didn't work very well. January Jones as Emma Frost, which I feel like was one of the biggest blown opportunities, because like she's supposed to be a powerful mutant, and like basically she was just window dressing. But like Evan Bacon was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And he worked. I liked that in that movie.
It takes about 5 minutes to get past the fact that he's Kevin Bacon.
And he was a Nazi.
Yeah.
That's
a lot you have to get past.
That small thing.
That confrontation between him and Magneto at that end with that coin is one of the coolest moments in any of the X-Men movies. That was so inspired.
Very simple idea. It's a very intimate idea, and it sets up the whole tragedy of Xavier and Eric Lencher. They knocked that out of the park.
So Eric Lencher got Ray Fiennes pulling the strings of this whole craziness going on in my story. Matt, what were you thinking?
Honestly, so I was trying really hard to think of a story, and I just kept going back to that original, and I kind of fell in love with this, so I just kept thinking more and more. So I just really want the original just to be remade with all my people. I guess I'm the kind of person. I remember when AMC Hamilton was out, and I would watch a movie with Shane sometimes. Like we would talk, and one of the first things Shane would always say is, "Well, I want to have a conversation," because he knew that I wouldn't want to. I want to have a conversation about the movie that we saw, not the movie that we didn't get to see. Because sometimes I would get pissed off, and then I kind of do like these parking lot tantrums. Yeah, sure. I want that. Like, what was the movie that I was pissed off at? The movie Us by Jordan Peele. I wanted something. That's not what I want. I want to have a conversation about the movie that I want. Damn it! Like, so this movie. This is what I want. Not that I didn't get what I wanted to get, because X-Men, the first one that came out, 2000, 99, whatever, that's an awesome movie. Fantastic. I actually have it on VHS because I'm old as hell. But, like, I also want my people to be in there, too. I love it.
Like, I like this, like, I wouldn't remake the same exact movie, but, like, and that was kind of something I was going back and forth between, like, the Morlocks idea and just a straight battle against the Brotherhood of Mutants. Like, start off simple and straightforward. It's a Magneto and his bad band of mutants, and then the X-Men. So, and like, that's how they started with the X-Men, it was them versus the Brotherhood of Mutants. It was just a lot smaller because it was just Tim, Toad, and Sabretooth and Mystique. But what are you thinking, Alex?
Well, I did not have an exact idea of what I want to do. Like I said, I really am into for me, I'm into the idea of not having Magneto really involved, or if he is, it's just as part of an intro, you know. But that's hard to do. I had some other ideas, like if I was going to go the Mr. Sinister route, or if I was going to have, I thought Gary Oldman would be a good Sauron. I don't know if you guys remember Sauron. He's like a green pterodactyl looking. He's like really powerful too. He can like fucking control your mind. He's like, he'll look at you. Oh man, I went the whole video without dropping an F-bomb and I just did it. Oh well.
This isn't for kids.
Yeah, but yeah. Oh, by the way, Tim Roth is Nightcrawler. I got Tim Roth as Nightcrawler. By the way, I had to put that one down there.
Tim Roth is Nightcrawler.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
That might be an interesting one. I gotta have him. All I know is I want Wolverine trying to get drunk and failing at it, and Nightcrawler having this big philosophical social morality conversation at a bar somewhere. And then I really like the idea of the Morlocks being in there, but instead of the Brotherhood, I think that actually having like the Sabretooth's son, with the anti-mutant, League, and the Morlocks against the X-Men at different times, and the X-Men trying to figure out how to, be involved. I think something of that nature would be very cool. And I just love the idea of Morph going around, pulling the levers, and basically changing into, I instead of having Mystique, have Morph, and just going around and just manipulating the X-Men and pulling on their emotional buttons. It would be a much smaller, more intimate, more visceral movie with, instead of having like, I don't want to make the mistake of a lot of the, like superhero movies make, where they have like 3 different bad guys, like, Spider-Man 3 or even Dark Knight Rises too. And as much as I like Dark Knight Rises, I'm, trying to avoid that. So just have Morph be my antagonist and have that basically spread out, around. So I don't know. I'm already going, I got to rewrite all that. So it's tough. These are difficult movies. We are hard on them, but they're difficult movies to make. And that's why you got to spend a lot of time in pre-production, a lot of time in the writing room before you really get to where you want to get.
I really wanted to make Juggernaut the villain of my movie, because like he's my favorite bad X-Men character. Like, he is not a mutant. Like they made him in the actual Last Stand movie, which why?
I know,
Like
I know.
he was a lot of fun in Deadpool 2.
I didn't see that.
Ryan Reynolds was the Juggernaut. Because like the Juggernaut was literally just a giant CGI character, which that's a tricky thing to do as well.
Sure.
But like I love the Juggernaut, and like I want to see Apocalypse done, but like I feel like you gotta build up to that.
Right.
Like it's like
Yeah.
one thing I admire about the MCU is they built up to Thanos.
Mm.
Like he was ready there after like 20 films to be like, my turn. And like he's intimidating, and I interested to see who they build up to next with the X-Men involved somewhere. I have a sinking feeling they're going to start introducing characters sporadically before they start introducing like an X-Men film. And you know who's going to be the first one?
Sure.
100% going to be.
Yeah.
But this was fun and interesting. I thought this was a different kind of idea. Alex, thank you for the recommendation to do this. I had fun doing this, and I changed my notes, and Russell Crowe is now my beast.
Agreed. I'm with you on
God,
that.
why did I not think of that? If I thought about him first, I'm like, easiest pick ever. There we go. We're done. But thank you all for tuning in and watching us and listening to us talk about X-Men. But from Alex and Matt and your Wasteland Reviewer, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting us at the Development Hell Podcast.